"Who made this apple pie?" the rich rancher asked. Then he saw the woman no one thanked. The smell of warm cinnamon drifted through the crowded ranch house just as the annual harvest appreciation luncheon reached its busiest moment. Guests praised the decorations, admired the long wooden tables, and congratulated the wealthy ranch owner for another successful season. But when the rich rancher sliced into one golden brown apple pie, he stopped after the very first bite. The room fell strangely quiet as he looked around with genuine surprise and asked, "Who made this apple pie?" No one answered with certainty. Smiles faded, people exchanged uncertain glances, and the rancher quietly realized something troubling. Everyone was eager to enjoy the celebration, yet no one seemed to know, or care, who had quietly made the meal that brought them all together. The ranch belonged to Alaric Thorne, a respected cattle owner whose success stretched across thousands of peaceful acres surrounded by rolling hills, orchards, and grazing fields. Although many admired his accomplishments, very few knew how deeply he valued simple acts of honesty and gratitude. Every year he hosted a gathering to thank his workers, neighbors, suppliers, and volunteers. It was meant to remind everyone that a thriving ranch depended on many hard-working hands, not just one successful owner. That year had not been easy. A dry season had reduced harvests, repairs had strained the budget, and many families connected to the ranch had quietly sacrificed their comfort to keep everything running. Yet the luncheon was filled with cheerful conversations as if the difficult months had already been forgotten. Delicious food covered every table, and laughter echoed through the bright afternoon sunshine. The apple pie, however, stood apart from everything else. Its flaky crust, perfectly balanced spices, and comforting aroma reminded Alaric of the desserts his grandmother used to bake when he was a child. One bite carried memories of love, patience, and home. He couldn't ignore it. The event coordinator insisted she had ordered desserts from several local bakers, but none of them recognized the pie. Volunteers shrugged politely. Kitchen helpers assumed someone else had prepared it. The mystery slowly spread across the room until nearly everyone became curious. Near the back entrance of the ranch house sat a quiet woman folding empty flour sacks into neat squares for recycling. Her name was Nerissa Vale, a newcomer to the small farming community. Few guests had spoken to her. She had arrived only weeks earlier after leaving another town where a family business had closed unexpectedly. Starting over had been difficult. Without many savings or connections, she accepted temporary work helping clean kitchens, organize supplies, and prepare ingredients whenever needed. Most people appreciated her work but rarely noticed her. Earlier that morning one of the hired bakers had become sick before finishing dessert. Rather than let the celebration disappoint everyone, Nerissa quietly asked permission to use leftover apples from the orchard and ingredients already available in the pantry. She worked before sunrise, rolling dough by hand, peeling apples with remarkable care, and baking the pie while the rest of the ranch slowly awakened. She never expected recognition. To her, helping simply felt like the right thing to do. As conversations continued, an elderly groundskeeper finally remembered seeing Nerissa carrying a steaming pie toward the dining hall before guests arrived. He mentioned it almost casually. Every head turned toward the quiet corner where she was still cleaning instead of celebrating. Alaric walked over himself. He noticed flour still dusted lightly across her sleeves despite her attempts to brush it away. Her hands showed small signs of long hours of honest work, yet her expression remained calm. When he thanked her for making the pie, she looked surprised. She softly admitted she hadn't wanted attention. She only wanted everyone to enjoy the meal without worrying that something was missing. She believed every gathering deserved at least one homemade dessert because homemade food reminded people they mattered. Those simple words settled over the room more deeply than any speech could have. Alaric asked why she hadn't joined everyone at the tables. She explained that she was hired to help, not to be a guest. Once the work was finished, she planned to quietly head home before sunset. She had grown accustomed to staying in the background because, over the years, people often remembered the finished work but forgot the person who completed it. The rancher felt an unexpected heaviness in his heart. Looking around the room, he realized that many people, himself included, had walked past her all morning without offering even a greeting. They had praised the decorations, admired the food, and congratulated organizers, yet the woman who had risen before dawn to fill an unexpected need had remained almost invisible. Without hesitation, Alaric invited Nerissa to the head table. She politely resisted at first, believing others deserved the seat more than she did. But the guests began applauding, not out of obligation, but because they suddenly understood what had happened. Chairs shifted, smiles grew warmer, and someone poured her a glass of fresh apple cider. Another guest brought her a plate before serving themselves. For the first time in a very long while, Nerissa felt seen. As the afternoon continued, stories naturally unfolded. She spoke about learning to bake beside her grandfather, who believed every pie carried more than fruit and flour. He always said patience became sweetness when shared with others. After losing both her family bakery and many familiar comforts, she feared those lessons no longer mattered. Yet baking that single pie reminded her that kindness could still find a place wherever people gathered. Inspired by her story, several ranch workers admitted they too sometimes felt unnoticed despite years of loyal effort. Others confessed they had been so busy chasing success that they forgot to thank the people quietly making daily life possible. Alaric stood before everyone and made an unexpected announcement. Beginning that season, every appreciation luncheon would include a moment dedicated not to the most visible achievements but to recognizing the quiet acts of service that often went unseen. He believed communities became stronger when gratitude reached those who expected it the least. The tradition quickly transformed the ranch. Workers greeted each other more warmly. Volunteers felt valued. Neighbors offered help without waiting to be asked. Small acts of appreciation spread from the ranch into the nearby town, where shopkeepers, teachers, farmers, and families began noticing the unseen kindness around them. Nerissa eventually accepted a permanent position overseeing the ranch kitchen and orchard bakery. More importantly, she found something she had almost given up searching for, a place where her efforts mattered and where people knew her name long before tasting her desserts. Special request: if this story touched your heart, comment below with, "Kindness never goes unnoticed." If this story inspired you or reminded you of the power of kindness, please like, share, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales so more people can discover stories that bring hope and encouragement. As the golden afternoon faded into a peaceful evening, the last slice of apple pie disappeared from the serving table, but its greatest gift remained. It reminded an entire community that the sweetest blessings often come from people standing quietly in the background, asking for nothing in return. Gratitude has the power to restore hope, kindness can change the course of someone's life with a single sincere moment, and every unnoticed act of love deserves to be remembered. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't the pie itself, it is finally seeing the heart that baked it.